Welcome to another Sloan's Wilderness Expeditions adventure travel vlog. We're hitting the road to one of America's most scenic states, so come along for all the hikes, scenic drives, camp locations, and behind-the-scenes shenanigans as we explore the canyons of Colorado. No reservations. Oh, hey guys. Hey, we are getting ready right now, packing up the car for what might be our only major road trip of this year, at least until December. So if you want to see what happens, come along. It's going to be epic. Our route will be taking us west out of Indiana, across Illinois, Missouri, and Kansas, with hopes of making it to our first Colorado destination, a 1,090-mile drive to the Comanche National Grasslands, in a single day. So how do we pack our car for such a trip? For starters, we have an 18 cubic foot cargo box on top, which stores our clothes, shoes, camping gear, and other odds and ends. Inside our car, we have two small 30-quart Coleman coolers that fit perfectly in the backseat floorboards, one for cold drinks and the other for cold food storage. Next is a tri-fold memory foam mattress, folded up, and behind that is a plastic tote for dry foods, our Bluetti power station, and camera equipment. Hey guys, we are on the road. Caden literally just finished his final exam from a spring semester there at Purdue yesterday, didn't you, buddy?
Yeah.
And he's only got 1 week off before he's starting some summer classes, huh?
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to make the most of this week he's got. We are heading west right now. We have already driven close to 800 miles. We're somewhere in Kansas at the moment. We've still got another 250 miles or so to go before we get to where we were hoping to make it tonight. But you know, sometimes we need to get out and stretch our legs. And we've got a spot here in Kansas that's always been on my list, just never convenient to go check out. So we're going to swing through and make a point to actually see this. We are at Monument Rocks here in western Kansas. Interesting rock formations here, sort of like Badland formations, just out in the middle of nowhere. Cool thing is, it's also surrounded by a lot of prairie dog towns, something we don't usually see unless, you know, we're in a national park or something. Pretty cool. Let's go check these out. This first monolith we're walking around here, just kind of out and all by itself right here. I figured since we parked by it, that's what we're going to go check out first. Most of this is surrounded by farmland, ranch land. So we see a lot of cow patties around here. So I'm guessing there's some free roaming cattle out here. You never know what you may find. Did you expect this kind of stuff here in Kansas, Caden?
Not in Kansas, maybe Colorado.
Right. May not be quite as impressive as some of the cool stuff you'll see at Badlands as well as some other places, but I mean, for me it's the location. It's out in the middle of nowhere. Really something special to see out here. And it's only about 20 miles or so off of the interstate, I-70. Straight south of it, so it's not that far out of your way if you happen to find yourself on the interstate traveling. I guess I can no longer say there's nothing to see in Kansas. We've just been proven wrong. Every state's got something. You just got to know where to look. This is private property. Apparently the owners, they simply ask that people respect the rocks. No climbing, no camping, no littering. Pretty cool. I'm digging it. Didn't have seeing an arch on my bucket list for Kansas, but here we are. Pretty awesome. I'll walk through these cool rocks. It looks like there's another sort of a mini arch up there, or a window. What would you call that, a window? It's kind of high up on it. So when there's nothing in the picture on these videos, it's kind of hard to tell the size of how tall the rocks really are. They're not super tall. I'd say like this one here is probably about 30 feet, some maybe 50, 60 feet. I'm gonna have to look into what this is made of. It's like a lot of the Badland formations or hoodoos, where it's a rock, but it's a very soft rock. Maybe some kind of sandstone, but I'm not positive. These monument rocks are also known as the chalk pyramids. They are 50-foot tall chalk formations that were formed from sediment that settled in an inland sea around 80 million years ago. In 1968, they became Kansas' first national natural landmark. So Monument Rocks there was pretty cool. A lot more to it, I think, than I realized. I thought we were just going to go through and drive around it and leave. That's all I really thought it was. But you can actually get out and walk around them and just see the cool rock formations and all the little cliff swallows running around there, dive bombing things. So cool experience. I'm glad we did it. It's only about 20 to 30 miles south of I-70, south of the little town of Oakley. And we were getting off the interstate at Oakley anyway, because we're heading towards southeast Colorado. So cool experience, but on to the next. Oh look, wild turkeys. Well, maybe not so wild. Monument Rocks was a cool little side adventure, but we still had 230 miles to go to get to the boondocking area we had hoped to make it to. We continued west, through small towns, watching the terrain slowly changing into a more arid landscape, crossing from Kansas into eastern Colorado, with the sun setting fast. I had a backup plan to spend the night at a Love's Travel Center near the town of Eads, but we blew right by, not realizing the gas station was on another road, so now we really had no choice but to make it to the Comanche National Grasslands. We have arrived at our boondocking site for the night. We drove all the way out to the Comanche National Grasslands in southeast Colorado. We didn't know for sure if we'd make it here all the way, but we did. It's like 10:30 p.m., which would have been 12:30 a.m. back in Indiana. So yeah. We'll have to get a look at this in the morning to see what it really looks like, since obviously it's dark now. But we are here and we are excited to get the adventures going. Good morning, fellow expeditionists. We are here in southeastern Colorado at Comanche National Grassland. We're going to be doing some hiking out here today, probably one of our biggest hikes of this whole trip actually. But now that we're here with some light, what are you finding pretty cool out here, buddy?
It Kind of feels like we're like farther southwest than we actually are.
Yeah. We are in a very much desert environment, at least plant-wise and such, huh?
Yeah.
And check this out. Straight behind us back there, that's a little bit of a canyon. Yeah, I think it's going to be a good day. It's a big old valley down there. Picket Wire Canyon. We're going to be doing about a 11-mile or so hike today down inside there. This is looking pretty cool so far, isn't it?
It is.
What kind of plant life are you seeing around here?
Lots of cacti, quite a few tree choyas and prickly pears along the openings, quite a few junipers, lots of short and medium-sized grasses, and some very short flowers.
It's pretty good. We've been awake for about, 20 minutes maybe. So yeah, we're just kind of inspecting, and I really am digging this. I wish we would have been able to have arrived earlier to have truly enjoyed camping here. But our main mission isn't camping, is it?
No.
Nope. Got 11 miles to hike. So I better get this car set back up, get us a little bit of breakfast so we can hit the trails. We are at the Withers Canyon trailhead, getting ready to drop down and do our hike. Parking over here, but there is campsites, dispersed campsites here. You're only allowed, of course, to camp in official sites here in the grasslands. And I didn't realize just how many there were literally at the trailhead. There were several. Well, most of them were open, but that's okay because, we actually got the other site completely to ourselves, not a single person there. So, bonus. Hey, fellow expeditionists. We are in southeast Colorado in the Comanche National Grasslands.
And today we're hiking to North America's largest dinosaur track sites.
The hike to the dinosaur track site starts from the Withers Canyon trailhead. This hike will take us down 250 feet from the ridgetop into the primitive canyons and Purgatory River Valley, where we'll follow the picket wire trail for nearly 6 miles, keeping an eye out specifically for Native American petroglyphs and the ruins of a 19th century settlement. So part of the theme, I think, for this week's Colorado trip is canyons. That was kind of unintentional. It wasn't really a thought process that went into it, but I think most of the things that we have planned involves dropping into canyons or canyon rims. So I think that's a pretty good thing to do here in Colorado. Well, we're not too deep into this hike yet, and we've already come across some old ruins here. So let's go check this out. When this territory became part of the United States after the Mexican-American War in 1846, many people from Mexico migrated north to settle. One of those immigrant groups was led by Damascio Lopez, who had 11 families that settled here in the Canyonlands. Most of the ruins, like this one, were from that original settlement. Cool landscape, huh, bud?
The way he is.
Yeah. I believe we had found the old mission. We were at the Dolores Mission and Cemetery. This is the remains of the Dolores Mission and Cemetery. That original settlement that I mentioned earlier was predominantly Catholic. So in 1898, the Denver Diocese and the local community built this church for their place of worship. What a rough life it must have been, you know?
Dealing with all these ants.
Ants, yeah. That would have been an issue, I guess. Look at that, the flowers growing inside this. That's amazing.
It is. It's almost like they were planted there.
So I'm at the rocks that are just off to the side and behind the Dolores Mission. Because Caden was zooming in with his camera on these rocks up here, and he found some petroglyphs. Clearly a petroglyph right here. I believe we got some inside that little alcove here too. We definitely got us some petroglyphs scratched in there. So here we have what appears to be some really large, probably cow tracks in the mud. And this kind of replicates exactly how the dinosaur track site that we're about to see was formed. One time dinosaurs would have walked through a muddy, probably a swampy area. Of course, this is a river bottom today. So it's totally possible, for whatever reason, that this mud was to kind of freeze in time and be a drought-like situation. It could turn into fossil tracks that maybe some intelligent creature 65 million years from now would find. All right, have you learned anything from the interpretive sign?
Guess they've discovered over 1,300 dinosaur footprints here.
That's a few, huh? Does it say they're all Apatosaurus or anything?
Some might have been from Allosaurus.
Oh, nice. Apatosaurus and Allosaurus. So Caden, you know, in the original Jurassic Park, that famous scene where Dr. Alan Grant stands up in the Jeep and he sees all of these dinosaurs out there that are roaming in herds, and he's just amazed because all of his theories are proven correct about how, I think his words were, look, they move in herds. They do move in herds. Well, that theory started right here. The track sites here at this largest North American track site is where they come up with that theory because of all of the parallel track sites where the animals would have been moving in herds. That's pretty fascinating, huh?
It is.
So right away, I already see tracks. See the 3 toes right here? Very well defined with that plant in one of the toes. So well preserved, look at that. Imagine this area 150 million years ago. The climate would have been tropical, with a lush conifer forest and huge ferns, and even sequoia trees. At that time, the river valley was part of a large, shallow lake. Along its muddy shoreline, dinosaurs such as Apatosaurus and Allosaurus roamed, leaving their footprints behind. These muddy flats were then baked hard by the sun, buried and turned to stone, frozen in time. This track site was discovered in the 1930s and extends nearly a quarter of a mile with over 1,300 individual footprints. Now, we've seen a lot of dinosaur tracks in some other places, obviously not to this extent. I think most of the Apatosaurus tracks we've seen, though, Where in the reverse of this, instead of seeing from the top, you can see them from underneath. Yep, there we have another meat eater probably right there. So you got to figure that the Allosauruses come out here and hunted some of the Apatosauruses. And here you can see I'm walking between the parallel tracks, where you know that they moved in herds. Well, the one downside to coming here in the spring is there are spring rains. There was a lot of rain last week, and you see the results here. Purgatory River is up, and we don't really feel safe trying to traverse this. It's moving really fast. It's definitely deeper than normal. You can see part of the trackside across the river there. It's just more of what we already seen over here, just longer. Some of it's actually underwater right now. The river's definitely been flooded this past week.
Even though we can't cross to the upper side to see the upper track site, we know what the upper track site looks like from looking it up. And let's just say it's awesome.
All right, cool experience getting down to North America's largest dinosaur track site. Beautiful hike. We still got 5.7 miles to go back, and I don't know, I'm gonna still keep my eyes out for more petroglyphs, I know that. All right, heading back, and I finally found the petroglyph rock that I had been looking for. We were coming from the wrong direction earlier. You can see the snake-like scratchings right there. Telltale signs of some cool petroglyphs. And it just keeps going around on this side. Yes, indeed. It was an amazing hike, but after 11 miles of sun exposure and heat in the mid-80s, I was feeling the effects, and honestly, I struggled to make it back up the canyon side to the trailhead. I kept feeling dizzy and needing to sit down, but thanks to Caden, I made it out. So the Comanche National Grasslands has been much more impressive than I expected it to be. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, it definitely has been.
I didn't really believe it had true canyons, and it did. And a lot of the rock formations were really amazing. And I didn't expect it to be as desert-like as it is, especially with all of the cacti, huh?
Right.
Awesome hike there. My tracker showed it to be about 12.4 miles total. I think officially it's supposed to be like 11.4, I don't know. But anyway, it was about a 6 mile hike. It's about a 6 hour hike for us. And I'm going to tell you something here that I didn't put in the full video for that hike. And that's the fact that I kind of suffered borderline heat exhaustion from being out in that sun for so long. We were drinking our water just fine, although it got hot, didn't it?
It got hot.
Yeah, it's hard to drink hot water. We had plenty of it with us, but it got hot. We were still sipping on it, and I did fine going through that valley coming back until we got to the hill to climb back to the top of the ridge up to the trailhead. And that's when it kind of hit me. As soon as it started going uphill, of course, my heart starts beating real hard, which I'm used to that. It happens every time I climb a hill, honestly. It's not a big deal usually, but this time dizziness came with it. It wasn't just a matter of, all right, stop for a second and catch my breath and let my heartbeat settle down. I literally felt dizziness. And so I had to sit down and try to recuperate for a little while. And Caden ended up going on up and finishing the hike and going to the car, getting some cold drinks and bringing them back down to me on that hill, which we were only not even a half mile, quarter mile from being at the end of the hike, and I was just struggling with my dizziness to get up that hill. And once I got me a cold drink and in me there, we made it on up just fine, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah, him twice. But, that's kind of a wake-up call. You know, just because you feel fine when you're out there on that flat terrain, you know, that heat, it takes a toll. Feeling pretty good now. Got some electrolyte tablets in us and everything, so we're ready to move on and see what the rest of this week brings us. We headed out of the Comanche National Grasslands and set in a route for Canyon City, about 130 miles northwest. Along the way, we passed through the communities of La Junta, Rocky Ford, Fowler, and Pueblo, making a quick stop at a Walmart to get replacement insoles for our hiking shoes, something that was long overdue. The flatlands of eastern Colorado gave way to the wet mountains and the Sangre de Cristo Mountains in the distance. Those wet mountains were our ultimate destination for the night, home to Temple Canyon Park, close to where we hope to be boondocking. So we left the Comanche National Grasslands, went into La Junta, stopped at the store and got a couple of supplies we were needing, got something to eat, and we headed northwest from there, all the way up through Pueblo and into Canyon City. And we're now entering the Temple Canyon Park. We actually had boondocked here in 2022, and that is our plan again tonight. So we're going to be heading down the Temple Canyon Road, looking for any pull-offs, doing one of the funnest things I enjoy on these road trips like this with no reservations, and that is always looking for that place to camp. Now, right now, the clouds have turned pretty ominous on us as well. It's showing a little bit of rain in the area, so we're probably going to be arriving just in time to get rained on. But, you know, that's just part of it. You never know what's going to happen. Just a quick clarification. Temple Canyon Park is a 600-acre park owned by Canyon City, and it does have 3 official campgrounds, but that's not what I was looking for. The park is surrounded by BLM land, and I was hoping to find a more secluded boondocking spot that wouldn't necessarily have neighbors, and that's just what we found. Well, we have found our spot here in the Temple Canyon Park. Sun's getting ready to go down behind the mountains. Our Subaru camper is set up here. And these are the views we have for the night, huh, buddy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't complain too much about this. Free camping in Colorado. All right, now we are boondocking proper. Since there's a chance for rain this evening and tonight, popped out the old awning just in case. Decided to pull out the chairs and relax a little bit this evening. Enjoying the sunset right now. I'm not sure what Caden's doing back there.
I'm expecting some juniper berries.
Ah, juniper berries. Right on.
They're all over the place here.
I'm sure they are. All over. But yeah, I'm digging it.
Me too.
Good morning. This is day number 3 on this road trip into Colorado. And sticking with our canyons theme, it seems like. We spent the night last night here in the Temple Canyon Park, and had a great night of sleeping here. It did not rain on us in the end, so that was nice. Chilled down to around 60 degrees, maybe a little under that, probably in the 50s. Made for comfortable sleeping. And we're up and at 'em. Got the car packed up, ready to move on to our next adventure, which really is just kind of around the corner here into another serious canyon, huh?
Yeah.
All right, let's hit it. So our spot that we camped in was technically on BLM land. It wasn't in the official Temple Canyon Park, as we were just literally a few, maybe 100 feet away from the actual entrance to the park itself, which I believe is owned by the city of Canyon City. And they do have some camping there too. We just didn't go that far because we didn't have to, since we had that awesome site we were at. But we've never actually driven through Temple Canyon Park like we're doing right now. The other time we were here, we came in from Canyon City side and left via Canyon City side. So now we're going through the actual park, and it is a fun drive, very scenic. A trip out west wouldn't be complete without an encounter with free-roaming cows. The drive through Temple Canyon Park had been both fun and scenic. It truly felt like we were miles away from civilization. But now, it was time to do something a little different for us, and that's hit up what I would normally consider to be a bit of a tourist trap. We were heading to Royal Gorge Bridge and Park, also a park owned locally by Canyon City. But unlike Temple Canyon Park, Royal Gorge is very touristy and has all the prices to go with it. We actually got a look at the gorge back in 2022 when we stopped at the Elkhorn Overlook picnic area, but that whet our appetite just enough to want to return for the full experience. There's a lot of things here to do that definitely cost money. Unlike going to a regular park, national park or something, where you pay like $30 and you can go do all you want for the next 7 days or something. Here it's something like $30 per person just to get in for the day. And then a lot of the activities beyond that, also have some pretty big fees. So while we wait for the visitor center to open up and get our adventure here started, I should mention that this place, Royal Gorge, had a wildfire just 12 years ago in 2013. Almost all of the buildings originally here were destroyed in that wildfire. The visitor center, the food service, almost everything was destroyed. The bridge itself, the historic bridge across the gorge, was mostly spared. There were a few timbers that had to be replaced, and those are the ones that, some of them that are still on the front of the new visitor center now. And it's just kind of interesting to think of this kind of landscape going through a wildfire that could not be stopped. And you know, it's such a steep terrain out there. All right, the visitor center pushes us right through, got our tickets. They are $39 per person. So the visitor center does have a very nice restaurant in there. Probably won't open until 10 as well, which is fine. We got the gondola up here beside us and directly below us. Bam, there it is. That's the gorge. And over there's the bridge we'll be crossing. So Royal Gorge was originally known as the Grand Canyon of the Arkansas, and it was so named until in 1874 a railroad photographer came through here and proclaimed it to be a royal gorge, and the name stuck. The local newspapers began referring to it as the Royal Gorge, and then during the railroad wars, when multiple companies were trying to build railroads at the bottom of the gorge, a court order was what officially put the Royal Gorge name into print. So from the top of the cliff right there once was a railway. They called it the incline. And right down there you can still see the remains of the track. Many, many years ago it was used for the post office. The post office lady would ride down that train all the way to the bottom of the gorge, where it would meet up with the main trains going through the gorge to deliver mail. Now you can get a really good look down there at those tracks from the Incline Railroad. And it had been used for tourists up until that massive fire in 2013. So here we have just one of the massive cable connections holding this suspension bridge. Oh, it seems like Lieutenant Zebulon M. Pike and his men were the first explorers to see the Royal Gorge. And remember, he is the one that Pike's Peak was named after. So he got to discover a lot of the coolest stuff out here. And here in front of us, one of the world's largest and tallest suspension bridges. You ready to go across that monster?
Yep.
All right. This is a long bridge, buddy.
It sure is.
Now it's typically used for, pedestrian crossings, but it can handle vehicles. The park rarely sends trucks and ATVs across it. They've got state flags all along here. All 50 states and even the republics should be represented.
Hey, I see all flags.
Yeah, hard to mistake Indiana's. It's one of the most boring. There you go. Indiana. Guess that'd be an appropriate spot to stop for some pictures. All right, what kind of view does the Indiana flag here give us? Oh, wow. I'm just going to say there are no bad views from this bridge. That's amazing. See the river flowing, the railroad beside it. All the shadows and nooks and crannies. Here's Kentucky. It's where my family came from. I might be a Hoosier, but we only slightly claim it. Some quick facts about the Royal Gorge Bridge. It was built in 1929, and at that time, it was the world's highest bridge at 956 feet above the Arkansas River. The bridge is 1,260 feet long, 18 feet wide, and the bridge towers stand at 150 feet high. It is still America's highest suspension bridge and 7th highest in the world overall. It's truly fascinating just how deep this gorge is, isn't it?
It is.
Yep. But I think it's time for us to continue on across. There's only so many pictures I can take of this amazing scenery. That is our crossing of the bridge over to the south side of the gorge. This side here has the Plaza Theater, some little eateries, the gondola, Via Ferrata, all that kind of stuff. And most of that's not open for a few more minutes, so I think we're just going to find a spot out of the sun to kind of relax for a little bit. 17-minute movie on the Royal Gorge Bridge and Park history. Juniper Junction. Over here we've got a barbecue place. So this is a Monday. What is this, May 12th? So it's kind of dead right now, which I enjoy, having this place mostly to ourselves. We've got this little beer garden up here. Can you imagine having a few drinks and then riding the zip line? Carousel and some slides and a really cool old style playground. Tommyknockerland is the name of that place. It looks like we have a little koi fish pond here. You could go in there and put in some coinage and get some feed to feed the koi fish. All right, unless you're Jerry Smith from Rick and Morty, this is only meant for the fish. There in front of us is the Sky Coaster. It's where they strap you in kind of a lay down position. And then the back tower pulls you up and then releases you and you swing out over the gorge. All right, this is an amazing view. We're between the Sky Coaster and the Via Ferrata area, where they have a nice little shaded viewpoint. And check this out. You got a massive view of the bridge, the gorge down under, and you can see a lot of that gorge and river down through there. An amazing view. Let's zoom in. Now that point there is where the incline railroad would have come down to. And now we can just kind of follow along that whole gorge. Some of the Royal Gorge wildlife right there. up there is where both the gondola and I believe the zip lines start. All right, we got a gondola on the way. We're at the zip lines and the gondola. We're just looking to take the gondola. All right, we are on the gondola getting ready to head back across this gorge. It's going to be an amazing little adventure right here. We are in motion, buddy.
We are.
All right, let's get this party going. Here we go. Via Ferrata over there on the side of that wall. There's that little shaded viewpoint we were in. Off to this side, here's our main view. Look at that. That is beautiful.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Wave, yay. Over the gorge we go. Goes way too quick, but you know what? This is a free ride with admission. So for your admission price, you can ride this gondola all day long, as many times as you want. Of course, as the park gets crowded throughout the day, you're going to have lines for it, but still, what an experience. Incoming, here we go. Oh, and one of that, there goes some zip liners beside us. I think they beat us. What'd you think of the gondola ride there, King?
It's pretty darn cool.
It was cool. That was really neat. It is a cool place, that is for sure. If you had the extra money to do all their things, zip lining and the sky coaster and everything, man, it'd be a very adventurous day, wouldn't it?
It sure would be.
I think even if we had the money, I don't know that I could get Caden to do it. Maybe the zip line, huh?
Maybe.
Looks like a pretty easy zip line. All right, we are back at the visitor center. Feel like something to eat yet?
Yeah.
All right, we got us some food there, buddy.
We got food.
That's some expensive burgers and fries right there. But what a view for lunch, huh? Very cool visit there to Royal Gorge Park. Like I said, we've stopped and seen the gorge before, but never got to cross it. And that is a whole unique experience in itself. Really cool views, wasn't it?
For sure.
Yeah, really neat to see. The gondola ride was a lot of fun. We're moving on now. We're not completely leaving Canyon City just yet, though. We are heading towards Skyline Drive. I know many of you have probably seen our video from 2022 there. It's actually probably one of our most viewed videos from Colorado. We're going to go back and revisit it for one thing, because when we did it that first time, we didn't realize there were dinosaur tracks there. It wasn't until later when I was editing my video that I discovered we passed right by dinosaur tracks. We want to see that. And I also want to try to record it, the drive, in a different manner that gives some better views. Skyline Drive is located off of Highway 50 on the western edge of Canyon City. It is a one-way, 2.8-mile drive that climbs to the top of a razorback ridge, some 800 feet above the surrounding terrain. The Skyline Ridge is a hogback composed of upturned Dakota sandstone with outcrops of the Morrison and the Fountain formations. All right, we are out of the car here on Skyline Drive. We're going to go check out some dinosaur tracks that were discovered here in 1999, even though this road has been here for a good 100 years. So here along this little cliff edge here, there are some large protrusions out of the wall there. You can literally see that one is kind of in a red color. That one there, you can actually get the kind of the feel for the toes in it. And then there's a bunch more right inside there. You see all those lumps? Those big bumps coming out of the wall. That is the impressions of dinosaur tracks. It is believed some ankylosaurids probably are what made the prints. And what happens is they've made the print and then mud filled in those prints and it created an impression, almost like a cast of the actual footprints. And that is why what we're seeing here is the inside cast of those footprints. You can also notice some trace fossils in these rocks, such as these holes that you see in here. That is the fossilized burrows of some ancient worms or clams.
You know, it's amazing how much history is here just buried in the box. All sorts of dinosaur and other fossils. Meanwhile, back in Indiana, everything's either just 12,000 years old or like 400 million years old and like nowhere in between.
The ankylosaur tracks are a cool diversion. But let's get back to the main attraction here, Skyline Drive. All right, Skyline Drive is always a cool experience. And now we're back to our unofficial canyons theme of Colorado as we head into Phantom Canyon Road. Phantom Canyon Road is a 30-mile section of the Gold Belt Scenic Byway. It follows the former path of the Florence and Cripple Creek Railroad, which once connected the mining towns of Victor and Cripple Creek back in the 1890s. The road increases in elevation from 5,500 feet to 9,500 feet, with tunnels and elevated bridges along the way. Its route goes through old town sites, rolling hills, cattle herds, rock formations, and more. There are ghost towns, such as Wilbur, Adelaide, and Glenbrook, that have since washed away in flash floods. Legend has it that the road got its name from an 1890s sighting of a man wearing a prison uniform walking along the tracks who had been executed at the state penitentiary a few days earlier. This is BLM land, with many pull-offs for sightseeing, fishing, and wild camping. this is such a cool drive. I'm absolutely loving this. So many rock formations, driving on the edge of cliffs, just beautiful scenery everywhere, and just tons and tons of boondocking sites out here. It almost makes me wish we'd been out here driving this in the evening instead of the middle of the day, just so we could have camped out in the middle of this. But what a sweet ride. So that's an abbreviated version of the 30-mile Phantom Canyon Road. Trust me, even with that 10-minute montage, there is still a ton of scenic video I've left on the cutting room floor. Now we're heading into the town of Victor, Colorado, which is the center point of the gold mining district. The Phantom Canyon Road was phenomenal. It was everything I'd hoped it would be. A lot of fun to drive. Don't you think so?
It was.
Yeah, it was really cool. And then, of course, coming out of that, we came into Victor, Colorado, which is home of the Cripple Creek Gold Mining Company, where an entire mountain has just been completely, slowly stripped down from gold mining. And we had actually seen that 5 years ago when we went up Pikes Peak. And from the top of Pikes Peak, over 14,000 feet, looking down, you could see the whole mountain where it had been squared off and is just slowly being withered away. Lots of money for the gold in there, huh?
Yep.
So this is the area they call the Gold Loop. We are not heading back down the other section of this Gold Loop. We are continuing our road trip across Colorado. We've knocked out how many canyons now? You had the Picket Wire Fence Canyon there at Comanche. We had the Temple Canyon Road there at Canyon City, and of course Royal Gorge, that canyon, and now the Phantom Canyon Road. So we'll see where the road takes us next, huh?
Yep.
We came upon the actual town of Cripple Creek, another town steeped in gold mining history. But today, this small town is best known for gambling, as it is home to 10 casinos open 24 hours a day. We still had quite a few hours of daylight, way too early to think about a place to camp for the night. And then I got this ridiculous idea to drive through the South Park region of Colorado, even though it was a bit out of the way from our planned route. You see, a couple of years ago, Caden and I binge-watched all 26 seasons of the South Park cartoon. And even though we know there is no such town in Colorado, we do know the towns that inspired the location for the cartoon. So, we went in search of South Park. We are passing through the small communities of Alma and Fairplay, I believe it was. These are the towns that were the inspiration for South Park. South Park, Colorado is where the cartoon of South Park takes place. Now, we have been through these towns back in 2020 when we went up to these mountains here to hike up Quandary Peak, which is a 14er. At that time, Caden had never watched South Park. Since then, he's watched all 26 seasons or however many it is, plus every South Park special. So I thought it'd be kind of funny just to come back here and explore these small towns that were the inspiration for South Park. Well, we are in the South Park district of Colorado, Fairplay, Colorado right now. The inspiration, of course, for South Park. Welcome to South Park, Caden. Whose face do you want to be?
You know, I think I'll be Kenny.
Go for it, Kenny. You are wearing orange. There you go. Of course I want some cheesy poofs. Screw you guys, I'm going home. We are heading south again, coming up here to Fairplay, Colorado to do the whole South Park thing. Wasn't quite as productive as we had hoped for. There wasn't really a whole lot there that plays up the whole South Park theme. And there's one store there, gift shop, that supposedly sells that kind of stuff, and they were not open, so we couldn't even commemorate the fact that we were in South Park, Colorado, other than the picture opportunities. Did get to resupply on ice. Talked to a guy at the gas station there that has a Subaru Forester, and he was commenting on our Subaru Crosstrek, and really interesting to talk to fellow Subaru owners and all the adventures they get to go on. It's always fun. We're heading down towards Salida, Colorado, to the Shavano Wildlife Management Area, I think it's called. But we actually boondocked there back in 2020, and it was an awesome location. And yes, there are probably 1,000 other boondocking sites between here and our next destination. But we know that one, we are familiar with it, and it is a beautiful place, so we are returning to that one. It's always kind of a safety thing too. All these other places, you don't know what kind of road conditions are to get to them, if there's other people already in them, or if it's just literally just a pull off somewhere off the highway. You just don't know on these apps that show you potential boondocking sites. So we're going something that we know for sure, and it's still along the way for where we want to go. All right, we are in the Shavano campground. It is a BLM area. We camped here in 2020, 5 years ago, and it was not as official as it is now. BLM has come in and made this an official campground. Back then it was just some circular areas for boondocking. They have come in and made official sites out of it and really cleaned it up a lot. It is still free, so it's still boondocking. There is no amenities here, no water, no restrooms. So you're on your own there. But look at this. I mean, behind me, I know I'm trying to block the sun with my head, but behind me are snow-capped mountains. And I'm going to swing you around to our campsite. Well, here we go. We got the car set up there, and there's more mountains back there. There were just a ton of sites up here, completely open. This here's a nice kind of circular pull-through site. There is a stone fire ring, actually a couple of stone fire rings. And then the view here, down into that valley, and the mountains in the distance. So while I was concentrating on the cool mountain views directly behind our campsite, let me show you some of the views on the other side. So we have got some snow-capped mountains straight ahead there. And then these over here I couldn't show earlier because the sun was right over them, but now the sun has gone down behind there. And more snow-capped mountains. And maybe in the morning, if we're still here at sunrise, get a better view of those guys. So, can't really beat this little campsite, huh, buddy?
No, we can't.
No. Pretty sweet. And there's a whole lot more here. A lot more. Now, granted, this is a Monday night, not a busy time, but you got all these little spots opened up for viewing pleasures along the sides. Good morning, fellow expeditionists. Day number 4 here on the road. Our third day getting ready to start here in Colorado. We're in the Shavano Wildlife Management Area. Pretty cold this morning, probably around 40 degrees, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, chilly. That's to be expected when you're surrounded by some snow-capped mountains though, huh?
It is.
All right, but our adventures today are going to take us through those mountains and possibly to some more canyon-like areas. Ready to do this?
Yep.
All right. We headed out of the campground and back toward Highway 50, where we would be spending the morning driving across the Rocky Mountains, over Monarch Pass and the Continental Divide, and toward the Gunnison area. currently cruising through the Curecanti National Recreation Area, which is in the Gunnison River Basin. And it is, wow, way more scenic than I had any idea. I knew it existed, and I knew that our route was going to take us through it. It's beautiful, isn't it?
It is. Looks like a giant pond.
Well, it is a lake. They've got it dammed up. I had to make a quick stop here in the Curecanti National Recreation Area just for this view alone here. Across the lake, there are the Dillon Pinnacles. The Dillon Pinnacles are volcanic in nature, and there is a 4-mile out and back trail that if I had known about it ahead of time, we just might have hiked to them. But this view from the southern side of Blue Mesa Reservoir would have to do for now. We are still in the Curecanti National Recreation Area. We took a nice little drive through a cool canyon, once again, keeping with our unofficial canyons theme here. Here you got a map of the entire recreation area. It's just long following this whole corridor of different reservoirs. There's the Crystal Reservoir, Morrow Point Reservoir, Blue Mesa Reservoir. We are currently finding ourselves here at the Morrow Point Dam of the Morrow Point Reservoir. So up here is the Black Canyon of the Gunnison, so we're not far from that. We're going to check out the dam and see the views down here. So these dams here are hydroelectric dams. They produce electricity for the area. Such a beautiful place. And apparently there's a trail, about a 1.5 mile long trail, that I'm going to try to talk Caden into doing with me. And there you have the dam itself. So the actual trail that we plan on taking starts from where we parked back there. But first, we want to get a close-up look of this cool dam. Our hike on the Mesa Creek Trail starts just below the Morrow Point Dam, which stands at 469 feet high and 740 feet long. Morrow Lake occupies 11 miles of the jagged Black Canyon, with depths up to 450 feet deep. The lower rocks of this canyon are over 1 billion years old. We truly feel like geologic time travelers as we hike down to river level. Caden says, I feel like we've done 3/4 mile already. I feel like I'm just going to go till the trail ends. All right, at this point, it gets pretty sketchy. I think there's a little bit of a land on the side of the river down there that's probably the official endpoint. All right. There's a little slick getting down here. Caden stayed back, but I am on river's edge. And it is tons of little butterflies. You can see that the canyon tightens up right there. There's nowhere for you to go at this point unless you've got something to paddle in. And this is about the only way I'm going to be at the bottom of the Black Canyon. So that was a pretty sweet little unplanned stop there, doing the Mesa Trail here in the Curecanti, however it's pronounced, National Recreation Area, here at the tail end of the Black Canyon of the Gunnison area. Really neat. What did you think, Caden?
I thought it was very neat, just walking by a waterfall and also just watching the rivers flow. I could see like the difference in water from the creeks and all of that.
Yep.
And also some very tall cliffs surrounding it.
Yeah, that was my favorite part. Obviously, the whole canyon thing is really fitting for this trip, it seems like, doesn't it?
It is.
But we're moving on to other parts of the canyon, I guess you could say. We have arrived at Black Canyon of the Gunnison National Park. So we were here at the Black Canyon of the Gunnison about 5 years ago, summer of 2020, but we were on the north side of the rim. Today we are on the south side. So we're going to check out the visitor center, which we never got to do back then, and probably check out just some of the overlooks. Split by a canyon. So we are currently here. That is the visitor center. In 2020, we came up to, I think it was the Narrows and Balanced Rock area. So this was the only section that we seen in 2020 was through here. Caden is loving our Colorado trip here in May because getting to see a lot of flowers we don't normally see in the summer on our summer trips, huh?
No.
Those first views down into that Black Canyon of the Gunnison, it kind of takes your breath away. It's just hard for the mind to fathom. You know, it is a lot like the Royal Gorge that we were just at, but deeper and with even more jagged rocks. So it's just kind of just something to see. You got to experience it. It will not translate perfectly to video and pictures. Yeah. We've just been cruising the south rim, bypassing a lot of the viewpoints, honestly, heading straight down to the painted wall. It's kind of like the most photographed area. We seen it 5 years ago from the north rim. Now we're going to see it from the south rim. Nice find, my man. Look at all those flowers there. That's awesome.
It is awesome.
Yeah, just look at these flowers. I don't know if you can see them very well. I see oranges and purples and yellows. Yeah, it's cool to come to these places in the springtime, seeing all the blooms you don't see any other time. This is the tallest single wall of rock in all of Colorado. Some amazing views out here, but this wind is fierce. Every time I get close to the side, I about lose my hat. It gives you a little bit of a feeling of vertigo with these tall cliffs. Woo, that is some wind. One downside to these kind of trips where we're like hitting all these cool places is over time you become habituated to it. So seeing such amazing things on their own suddenly don't seem that spectacular now, because you've already seen so many other spectacular things. You start to become habituated to that feeling, and that is Caden's word, and he's right. Well, I think our little excursion here into Black Canyon and the Gunnison is just going to be a little scenery and photography session. It's always cool to see, but I have a problem, I think, with canyons, looking down into them like this. It doesn't have the same effect for me as it would if I'm at the bottom of the canyon looking up. And so when I'm inside a canyon and looking up and surrounded by all those rock walls, it really gives me this feeling of awe. But when I'm on top of it, just looking down inside, I love seeing the geology of it and all the jagged rocks, but it doesn't give me that same feeling of awe. Does it you?
Yeah, I think I agree there. I think we definitely have more awe when we're like well into the canyon at the bottom of it versus at the top of it, because like when we have a canyon like this it gets so steep that by the time you're like at the bottom, it partially like loses some of that 3D feeling just because it's such a large distance.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, we have seen some of the sights here, and I think we are probably going to move on. We are kind of paying the price for doing our 12-mile hike at the beginning of this adventure, because obviously you know that I had a little bit of a heat exhaustion from that. Both of us got sunburned, but on our legs of all places. Not a place that I usually even bother putting sunscreen, because usually that does not happen. And I've also developed blisters on one of my feet, and that hinders the hiking that we normally do on these trips. So we'll do some small hikes, but yeah, when it comes to the climbing and such that's really hard on your feet, I'm gonna have to take it a little bit easy. But we're still out here in Colorado taking in this amazing scenery. Well, good morning, guys. Yesterday, we just were not feeling Black Canyon of the Gunnison for reasons I can't really explain, because it is an amazing place, amazing views. I even had one hike planned out there. But I just think we were tired, we're sunburnt, got blisters, so we really needed to take kind of a personal day to recuperate and get those things sorted out. And that's what we did. We ended up back in Montrose, the little town outside of the national park, and grabbed us some supplies and took it easy for an evening and took care of ourselves. And now we're ready to hit the road again.
Yep.
Ready for some more adventures, buddy?
Yep.
All right, let's do it. Well, we headed out of Montrose, going north up through the town of Delta, and now we're in an area called the Adobe Badlands. It is just one of those random things I discovered on a map, looked it up a little bit, and it just sounded like something really interesting to go check out. There's no true hiking trails out here, but you can just get out and wander on them. So hey, sounds like our kind of place. Hey fellow expeditionists, we're in the Adobe Badlands of Colorado.
We're going to check out Devil's Thumb.
The Adobe Badlands Wilderness Study Area is located to the north of Delta, Colorado, on the south side of Grand Mesa. It is composed of Mancos shale formations, creating a sparsely vegetated badlands landscape known locally as the Adobies. The most noticeable feature is a pinnacle called the Devil's Thumb, which I had hoped we would be able to climb to, but Mother Nature had other ideas for us. So this is a wilderness study area, and it is supposed to be only open to foot traffic. But all I see is mostly motorcycle, dirt bike trails. So if those are the rules, they're not being enforced. The Adobies are surrounded by OHV areas, and I can't say for sure that our path didn't cross over into one of those areas. There really didn't seem to be any boundaries out here, just hills and valleys waiting to be explored. Cool scenery, but man, is it windy. That is one steep hill. So this here is the climb to get up to Devil's Thumb that I was hoping to make it to, but the wind is absolutely beating us up. That is super steep and extremely narrow. With being fully exposed to that wind, I think that would be a disaster waiting to happen. So we're not going to make it all the way up to Devil's Thumb. If you didn't have the wind, we wouldn't be talking right now. I'd already be going up it. So I think at this point, we're going to weave our way down into all these waves of hills and mountains of Badlands. Just enjoy this landscape without putting our lives in danger. Well, we found us a sheltered spot behind some rocks here. Take us a little break and just check out this scenery, take it all in. Colorado really does have just about everything. Here we've got the Badlands, we've driven through the mountains, we've been in the canyons. All right, we're gonna try to take us a slightly different route back down and through all of this. It's gonna be a little bit sketchy at first because there's not really a trail here. We're just gonna go down what apparently a motorcycle or something has used before. Let's head up onto that big old mound in the middle, see what kind of circular 360 views we can get. Ooh, there's the wind. There's the thumb. Didn't quite make it there, but it's all right. Still some cool scenery here all around us. Lots of volcanic evidence. Looks like we have multiple ways back down too. Maybe next time, Devil's Thumb. Maybe next time. So that's our quick experience here at the Adobe Badlands here near Delta, Colorado, close to the Grand Mesa area. It's a really cool area, something that's kind of neat to explore if you ever find yourself here in this area. Now, I had hoped to make it up to Devil's Thumb, but the wind was just killing us. We couldn't make it all the way to the top. It's really steep and really exposed. But it was still an experience just going out there and crawling around on those dunes, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The Adobe Badlands is a pretty cool area. And as we're driving out here on a separate road through more of the Badlands, there are specific OHV areas out here, which makes sense. This is totally the kind of landscape made just for dirt bikes and ATVs and such. But of course, the area we were at is supposed to be strictly foot and horse traffic, but there's no real boundary. So these OHV riders come out here and go out to the areas made just for them, and then cross over there and don't even realize that it's not an area that they should technically be in. So I can't blame them. They probably have no clue, and apparently the wilderness area people don't enforce it. But it's still a cool thing to see. You got the Grand Mesa here to our north, and just so much. It's just such a weird terrain out here, isn't it, Caden?
It is weird.
So I think we are going to just go cruising for a while now. We're going to take the Grand Mesa Scenic Byway and just see the sights for a little bit. The Grand Mesa Scenic Byway is a 63-mile stretch of highway between the towns of Cedar Edge to the south and Mesa to the north. From Cedar Edge, we will be gaining nearly 5,000 feet of elevation as we climb to the top of the world's largest flat-topped mountain, which stands at nearly 11,000 feet above sea level. I have only seen the Grand Mesa from a distance off of Interstate 70 to the north, and honestly, I had no idea the Grand Mesa National Forest had so much to offer. The forest and alpine meadows offers more than 400 miles of hiking trails and dozens of trout lakes. Of course, here in mid-May, much of the upper elevation is still frozen, as we quickly dropped from 65 degrees down in the Adobes to 35 degrees up on the Mesa. So I really had no expectations from this Grand Mesa Scenic Byway, but wow, I am impressed. I did not realize just how tall this mesa was. We have dropped from about 65 degrees down near the Adobe Badlands to around 34 degrees at the top of this mesa. I've had to switch to my inside camera because my outside camera got too cold for it. It said it was not going to function anymore.
Imagine like living up here and waiting for spring.
Yeah, it'd be a long wait, huh?
Definitely. And Mesa elevation is 11,332 feet.
Nice. Drive through Utah.
So I was thinking, I could drive to Moab.
Yeah. I really didn't expect this end of the Grand Mesa Scenic Byway to take us through more canyons, but it was so fitting with the unplanned theme of this trip being the canyons of Colorado. Realistically though, this is the eastern edge of the Colorado Plateau, where all of the coolest canyon formations seem to have formed, from here into Utah and down to Arizona and New Mexico. We we headed west on I-70, and I'm not going to lie, I had a strong urge to continue west into Utah. The only reason we didn't is because of time constraints. That and the fact that we really wanted to revisit one of our favorite places in Colorado, the Colorado National Monument. It's an often overlooked gem, tucked between the Rocky Mountains to the east and the Moab region of Utah to the west. Many people don't even realize it exists, and it's just a few miles off of the interstate. Well, we arrived at Colorado National Monument. This is one of our favorite stops from our trip here in Colorado 3 years ago. So we decided to return to it. And as I had hoped, there were just some campsites that were open, and so we grabbed one. Did the same thing back in 2022. Now it is a lot more crowded this time. And I'm sure that's because we're here in mid-May when the temperatures aren't too bad, and whereas in 2022 we were in July and it was quite hot, wasn't it?
It was.
It was. So it is definitely busier here. Our campsite is elbow to elbow with other campsites that are full. But you know, we're just here for a day or two to enjoy the canyons and the views. And if this weather system passes, hopefully it'll warm up a little bit. Maybe we'll see some cool wildlife, huh?
Yeah.
So here's the water rock where we can refill all of our water needs. And right behind here, this is our campsite. Crosstrek. We love boondocking with it, but it's always nice to have the amenities of a campground. So here's our site. We got our tent set up. It's supposed to get to 40 degrees tonight, so we may end up sleeping in the back of the car again. I don't know, we'll see. So one of our favorite memories from staying here before was in the evenings we'd go off to the little lookout point back here behind the campground. And that's where we kind of hang out as the sun went down. And also, there's a great spot for the sunrise. So we're going to go over there right now. So here is the Book Cliff Views Center. And this is the spot I'm talking about. There's a class here right now. Looks like they're drawing what they're seeing in front of them. What an amazing way to have a class. So way out there you got Grand Junction in the distance, the Book Cliffs. We spin around this way and we've got the awesome views into the Colorado National Monument. So there is a canyon rim trail, window rock trail that leads from the campground to the visitor center. We've done it before from the visitor center out to here. And today we are going to the visitor center via that trail. Danger, do not cross fence. From what I've seen, the rocks on out there are kind of overhangs, and probably not the safest thing. So good on the park for keeping the people safe, because Lord knows, us humans, we are our own worst enemies. Now here's why they call this Window Rock Trail. Right down there is an arch. But that is also why people like to go out there. They want to go walk across it. You can see why people would want to cross that fence and go out there. That is an awesome viewpoint. But it's best to protect those rocks and keep people from being their own worst enemy. There's kind of the classic view into the main canyon here. The Independence Rock right in the middle. From the Grand Mesa area westward here into Colorado National Monument and beyond, this is where, in my opinion, the Utah type formations really begin. So people like us that love the Moab area, all of the arches and all of the canyons, this is kind of where that landscape begins. So it is the closest thing here in Colorado to all the stuff you see in Utah. So we kind of had to include it because I'm kind of missing Utah. There on the left is the wall, the canyon rim that we've been hiking along the edge of. So there are several trails out here that are along the rim edges, looking down into these red rock canyons, which are really cool. My favorite thing is to actually hike down into the canyons where you got those giant cliffs above you. And it's also more likely you'll see wildlife, the various kinds of lizards. I think there's like 7 or 8 different species here, as well as I believe they have bighorn sheep in this region. So your best chance to see that is down below. One more viewpoint. We have arrived back at the visitor center. So here's the visitor center where we're at. The campground. The hike we did 3 years ago started up here, went down all the way around this to Independence Monument and back. We're trying to decide what we're going to do this time. Potentially hike from the bottom up to Independence Monument.
This is how they made the Rimrock Road. It is impressive.
A nice little visit there to the visitor center. Grab some extra gear. We have not come to a conclusion yet on what hike we're doing tomorrow out here. We're going to do something that's going to take us into the canyons. The difference is how much climbing we want to do. You know, Ute Canyon is the one that I had originally hoped to do, but it is a serious switchback, steep hike down. Obviously the down part is okay, but what goes down must come up. And the other one is potentially coming from the bottom and moving upward into the center of the canyon, looking for our collared lizards and stuff that we're hoping to see before heading back down. But we're going to do probably a drive around the canyon rim drive. So this big old red rock in front of us here is, I believe, called Saddlehorn Rock. It's what the Saddlehorn Campground, of course, is named after. We call it the Flintstone Rock, because that totally looks to me like one of the old Flintstone houses, just bigger. All right, we still have a few hours in the day. Kind of wore out still, but you know, we're going to take a little scenic drive around the rim of the Colorado National Monument. Rimrock Drive is a 23-mile scenic road showcasing many of Colorado National Monument's best features, with pull-offs along the way for scenic photography, as well as several trailheads. The blue skies contrast with the red rocks in this surreal landscape, and if you're really lucky, sometimes bighorn sheep can be found wandering along the road. To stop here at the Ute Canyon trailhead. This is the one from the top that has this major drop down to the bottom, just to see what it's like. We're going to take a look at just how steep this is. It is a 600-foot drop to the bottom of Ute Canyon. And that's about the same amount as it was when we did the upper canyon hike 3 years ago, except it was over a longer distance to go that far. So I'm just kind of curious what kind of hike it takes to get down there. So Caden, I can see the switchback down there. Okay. So it just kind of looks like it goes on a constant switchback to the bottom. Yeah. It wouldn't be that bad, really, if it's like this the whole way.
Yeah.
If that's what we decided to do. We may just decide to do something from the bottom coming up. We were trying to decide what hike we would be doing tomorrow. My top two options were here dropping down into Ute Canyon, or doing the lower Monument Canyon loop. Both have elevation gain, but not as dramatic as here at the top of Ute Canyon. Two things that would greatly sway our decision are the conditions of our feet, since I had been dealing with blisters, and the idea of returning to Monument Canyon, where we saw one of the coolest lizards during a previous visit. Now, I would love to hike from the top of Ute Canyon all the way to its northern terminus just outside of Grand Junction, but we would need a shuttle to bring us back to our car, and I'm not sure if there are Uber drivers in the vicinity that would do that. Got some weather moving in again. Very cloudy. The temperature quickly dropped. Very windy once again. It's going to get cold tonight. 40 degrees is what they're forecasting, and probably even colder up on the top of this mesa or whatever it is that we're camping at. Tomorrow is supposed to get nicer. It's supposed to be a little bit sunnier, a little bit warmer. I think we are leaning towards not doing that Ute Canyon. Or now we're really leaning towards doing the one from the bottom, going upward into the canyons. Just because, since our main thing really is hoping to find some cool lizards, that's where we're going to find them, further down where it's warmer. So we'll see. We're back at the campground. It seems to have been taken over by school kids. There's at least 2 school buses here full of kids out here camping. Great for them, but not so great for us, huh?
No.
Well, it is almost 8 p.m. The sun is starting to go down. So we're coming back over here to the Book Cliff Views. Going to hang out for a little bit. Pick a seat. I like sitting right here. Not a bad place. We may have escaped the screams of the school children back in the campground for the moment. Good morning, folks. We're waking up out here on the rim, taking in the views and just kind of soaking it in. We're going to be starting our hikes today a little bit later in the day to give the weather a chance to warm up, which is complete opposite of what we did the other time. We had to start early to beat the heat, but starting out around 40 degrees this morning, so we're going to wait a little bit and just kind of relax and enjoy what this day brings. So this view here has some of the main monoliths out in it. On the other side over there is the Monument Canyon, and the canyon here on this side is Wedding Canyon. We're going to be doing a loop hike today. It's going to be going on the other side of this big old rock, goes up to all of these monuments in the middle, and then comes back around here on the Wedding Canyon for about a 4.5-5 mile hike. But we may also hike a little bit deeper into the canyon in search of some wildlife. So our hike into the canyon today is about 2.5 miles up to the Independence Monument. And then the Wedding Canyon Trail is an unimproved trail. That means the park doesn't really take care of it, so you kind of have to do your own route finding to get through. Our hike is listed as 4.7 miles with roughly 600-foot elevation gain. However, we would be deviating just a bit from the loop to go up further on the Upper Monument Canyon Trail to the Kissing Couple Rock Formation in hopes of finding some collared lizards in an area that we had found them during a previous visit a few years ago. Straight ahead in the middle there would be the Independence Monument. That's where our loop joins up and goes the other way, but thinking we may go a little bit deeper in the canyon. Out there is the Kissing Couple. Some more. Well, we've made it the 2.5 miles to Independence Monument here. The Independence Monument is kind of the central focal point of Colorado National Monument, and you can see why. Got us a whiptail. So we're continuing out this way towards some of these other big old rock formations, partly because of the awesome photography possibilities it opens up getting out here, but also because we were really hoping to find some collared lizards, and this is the area we had seen them 3 years ago. However, weather may not cooperate with us. It's been very chilly. It's in the 50s right now. And I got a little bit of sunlight out here. We are directly below the Kissing Couple rock formation. Mission accomplished. We found us a collard. There's the window we hiked out to yesterday near the campground. We found our second collared lizard. Back below Independence Monument, making our way around. We're back at the Independence Monument trail junction. So we came up Monument Canyon Trail, and now we're going to head down the unimproved Wedding Canyon Trail. Of course, now that we're on the sketchy part of the trail is when the wind really picks up on us, huh? Might hurt if you fell off the side. Well, we're getting there, but the unimproved Wedding Canyon Trail really is a lot more sketchy than I anticipated, just because it's so steep and it's so sandy that it's hard to keep any traction. That was a good hike today into the canyons there at Colorado National Monument. Really enjoyed that, besides the fact that my feet are killing me again. But yeah, it's just such a beautiful place. Those red rocks and the monuments there and the monoliths. And of course all the lizard life. So yeah, gotta love that.
So cool.
Yeah, so cool. Other than, our feet hurting, I loved the adventure. We're not completely done yet, so. Campground is as full as it can get. It has 2 school buses full of kids in here. Apparently, this is how they're ending their school year, outdoor classes. And this place sounds like a playground. It's like recess time here at the campground all day long. If we had not been so tired after our 7-mile hike out in the canyons today, we probably would have come back here, packed up the tent, and left and gone looking for a boondocking site. But no, we were tired, crawled in the tent, and kind of took a nap. At least Caden did. He managed to get some sleep, but I couldn't because of all the noise. So they do quiet down once it gets dark, so that's not an issue. So the Book Cliff shelter that we usually like to sit in the mornings and in the evenings has actually got a open air classroom going right now. A bunch of little kids in there and their teacher actually having some kind of class. So we left that to them and come back down to the rocks down here on the canyon rim edge to chill out before darkness sets in. Just think, Caden. We were down there just a few hours ago. Somewhere off to that side there is the unimproved trail that kind of tore us up a little bit.
I'm gonna go back, guys.
Good morning, day number 7 out here. What'd you think of our stay here at Colorado National Monument, Caden?
It's definitely neat getting to see Colorado National Monument again.
Yeah, we absolutely love the scenery here. It's just a gorgeous place, and it's a great place for hiking, especially here in May. Campground is a little bit fuller and louder than we prefer, but after dark, it's fine. Everybody observes the quiet hours. So good time overall, but it's time for us to move on. Heading out of Colorado National Monument now. But I would like to point out that to the immediate west of Colorado National Monument is the McGinnis Canyons area. And it is a lot like this, but more rugged. And it is an area I would absolutely love to explore. It is full of canyons, it is full of arches, and all the kinds of things I like. However, there are no good roads through there. You pretty much have to have a high clearance, true 4x4 to take the roads. At least that's what all of the reports are. And I don't trust myself trying to take the Subaru through there, because I'd probably be the one that ends up pushing my luck and needing somebody to pull me out. So someday, McGinnis Canyons, I think, would be a worthy place to explore. But right now, it is time for us to start heading east. It is about the end of our week-long vacation. This is day number 7. We still have one more canyon to go through, of course, of our unofficial canyon theme this week. And that is, of course, Glenwood Canyon, that I-70 itself goes right through. It's kind of the nice bonus of Colorado National Monument. You're literally minutes off of the interstate, and that is the interstate that takes us straight back to Indiana. But it has probably the most scenic section of interstate in the country through the Glenwood Canyon. I think we might have one more stop in Denver on our way out.
Hey guys, one more stop on this Colorado trip. We're at Dinosaur Ridge.
Dinosaur Ridge is located just outside of the Red Rocks Park near Morrison, Colorado, just south of Denver. We've been here one time, it was like 7 years ago, our first major west trip, and Caden doesn't have a whole lot of memories of it, so we're going to inspect it again since it's kind of like right on our way home. It just seems fitting that since our week in Colorado started with an adventure out to North America's largest dinosaur track site, that we end the week with a similar theme. This hill was a major feature during the dinosaur bone wars of the 1870s, when many early paleontologists were racing for the next big fossil dig. Right here, fossils of Apatosaurus, Allosaurus, and the first identified Stegosaurus fossils were discovered, as well as Diplodocus and Camarasaurus. In 1937, during road construction, an immense dinosaur track site was uncovered as well. Wow, I always find it fascinating, a lot of the exposed rock here at one time was seabed. And you can actually see some of the wavy formations in that, how it got frozen in time. Ironically, some of the most abundant tracks in these rocks aren't even from dinosaurs, but rather from crocodile scratches. So apparently these ancient crocodiles would hunt the duck-billed dinosaurs that would have roamed this land here. And that's what we're seeing with the scratches from the crocodiles and these hadrosaur tracks. So this in front of us here is the America's most viewed dinosaur track site. And they are everywhere, for sure. I think it says there's something like 39 species, 3 of which are dinosaur, 1 crocodile, of tracks here. So we've kind of started off this trip visiting the largest track site in North America, and ending it by seeing the most visited track site in North America. I should also mention that the park that manages this, they have darkened in most of these tracks to make them easier to see. If you watched the beginning of our vlog here, you saw the largest track site out there at Comanche National Grasslands, and how they're best seen either after a rain or when the sun is a certain position to create the shadow and all. So here they've purposely darkened them. It's kind of like cheating, but maybe that's why this is the number one quote unquote track site. So mixed in here with the hadrosaur tracks. We've got some ornithomimid tracks as well. Just noticed along these rock layers up here, it's actually got one of those cannonball concretions right in the side there. So we rounded the ridge here on Dinosaur Ridge, and now we've got a view. As I mentioned earlier, we're just outside of the Red Rocks Park. A road down there that goes into the Red Rock Amphitheater, very famous concert venue. Very pretty colors. All right, refocusing back on our Dinosaur Ridge here. Apparently there is a raptor track inside here. Got it protected up inside this red ring. Not only is this Colorado's first raptor track found, it's actually an impression. It's kind of like how we described the impressions of those tracks at Skyline Drive in Canyon City. It's where the track had been made and then filled with sand, and it made a mold, kind of a cast of it. So that there is actually a cast of the original track, which of course has since eroded away.
You know, it probably takes a very trained eye to find raptor tracks like that, because we would probably never see such a thing by ourselves. Maybe we've looked at things like that before and not even realized it.
So we've come up on the track site that is very similar to one on Skyline Drive in Canyon City, where we have the bulges coming down out of the rock. You can see this huge bulge right here. That is a footprint. And there are several bulges like that through here. There's even one up here. It says it's a cross section of the dinosaur track. So this is like an underneath view. Now here we have a very well-defined theropod track. And you can't miss that. Even I would have found that one. Pretty cool. So on this wall we have some actual dinosaur bone. You can kind of make out the discoloration where this is pointing at. And that is the bone. I can actually see the texture of it right there. And you can really see it right here. That one's got some significant size to it there. Just to give you an idea. Alright guys, that's pretty much going to bring our adventure here in Colorado to an end. But first, I would like to ask Caden a couple of questions. We've seen at least 3 different dinosaur track sites. Which one was your personal favorite?
I think my favorite dinosaur track site was the track site at Comanche National Grasslands, because that was like the largest dinosaur track site in North America, and it's also where they learned that dinosaurs travel in herds.
That did make it special, didn't it?
It really did.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you on that one. That was my personal favorite as well. So now, overall, with everything we've done this week, from the Monument Rocks in Kansas, Comanche National Grasslands hike, all of our boondocking sites that were really cool, Royal Gorge, Black Canyon and the Gunnison, Colorado National Monument, Adobe Badlands. What was your favorite thing on this trip?
I think my favorite hike was the hike we did yesterday at Colorado National Monument, because we got to see all sorts of formations and monuments, and we got to see our collared lizards again.
Yeah, those collared lizards are pretty special, aren't they?
They are.
They are to us anyway. For me, I think my overall most memorable thing was the Comanche National Grasslands and that hike. Because first of all, it was something that was completely brand new to us, not something that was busy at all, and you got not only the history of settlements, old settlements there, the history of the Native Americans with all the petroglyphs, and then of course that huge dinosaur track site and everything around it. Yes, I paid the price with my feet and got a little bit of heat exhaustion out of it, but it was still so worthwhile. But Colorado National Monument is one of our favorite places, and it is right up there. It's so hard to choose between them, honestly.
It is.
But we hate to have to end it, but I'm glad that we got to do it.
For sure.
We got to hit the road now, heading back east towards home. Till next time, folks.
Peace out.
As always, thanks for coming along, and be sure to smash that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up so that it gets promoted to other like-minded travel enthusiasts. Hope to see you out on the trails.